All right, on the line today and actually on video, I have Pete Evick from the Bret Michaels Band and a whole lot of other stuff. How you doing today, Pete?
I'm great, buddy. I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. So what I want to do for the people that don't know, you're the guitar player for Bret Michaels solo band, and but you also have a lot of other stuff going on. So let's start with your musical career first. How when it came to the Bret Michaels band, how did that whole thing come up? Like, did you have to audition? Was it You're laughing because you probably answered this a million times, but just for the people that
I've
don't
told the
know,
story a lot of times, but
go ahead.
it's an interesting story. The deepest roots of the story go back in '92 when CC left Poison.
Yeah.
I was 17 years old. Poison's obviously from Pennsylvania. I'm from Virginia. And I know that Brett's real loyal to his East Coast boys and stuff, and so I did everything I could to audition for Poison. I sent the tapes, the requirements in. I was 17, and they had to call me and tell me, we're sorry, we're taking this guy from LA, Richie Kotzen. And Poison. My first song in a high school talent show I played was a Poison song. So I was a diehard fan. And so then as the years go by, I kept in touch with the right people. And Bret went and did his solo tour. And the first two solo tours, he had two different bands. First year was a band called American Anthem. The second year was just some a hodgepodge of guys from Nashville or whatever. And it didn't gel right maybe with Bret. They were great players, all still great friends, but Poison had always been a band.
Right.
And Bret's always been in a band. And all of a sudden there were this kind of misconnection. It didn't feel like a band. It was hired players. And we were his opening band for those 2 years on most of the East Coast dates. We were his opening band, and we got to be buddies. And then his guitar player at the time, Steve Frangidakis, and me got to be really, really, really close. And Steve told me that year, and I said, "Man, just put me in." And I didn't want it. I didn't want it to be my band, which it ended up being. I just, give me the shot. And then Bret called me one day, and he goes, I got a gig in Detroit, a little radio gig. This is the best part of the story to me, because I have a little radio gig. And instead of bringing my band, why don't we just bring your band? You guys know all the Poison songs, right? I said, yeah. He goes, all right, it'll be great. It'll be great. And he'd seen us play. He knew my band was called Evick at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd seen us. He knew we were capable. So we get up to this little radio gig, and it's 15,000 people.
Well, it's little to him.
His version of Little Mine's a lot different. And we go completely unrehearsed. We meet in a hotel room and go over a couple ends and beginnings. But, the thing is, bands, and over the years, especially if you've been playing those songs 20, 30 years, you think like the record, but they've evolved.
Right.
As an artist. If you listen to the way Poison plays on Skinny Bop today versus the record, it's nothing.
Right.
Like he's, and we didn't anticipate that. Neither did he. So we learned the songs, but it didn't gel right. We got up on stage, we played them right, but it didn't gel right. And I remember thinking, well, that was it. That's as big as it's ever going to get from me. And later on in the week, he called me and he goes, "What do you think happened there?" I said, "We didn't rehearse. We didn't. I don't know. I'm sorry." And he goes, "Well, let's try it again." He goes, I know how good you guys are. Let's try it one more time. This weekend, it's Memorial Day weekend, which we're coming up on 13 years of it right now. But Memorial Day weekend, he goes, "Oh, we're going to open up for Leonard Skinner in Nashville, Tennessee. 33,000 people, sold out." Okay. So we go down and we play the gig, and at the last song, he looks a high five, and we've been together ever since.
That's cool. It's funny though, for him a small gig is 15,000, whereas for me a small gig is like 50.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So you said 13 years you've been doing that. Now the band has had a lot of different players in and out in that time, but you've remained constant. So what has been your secret?
Well, so the first 10 years of it, or 9 years, the drummer and bass player were my band, the band Evick. And they just, Bret is a road warrior, and so am I. And after a decade, they just kind of, got, the bass player was having a kid, and wanted to be there for that, and the drummer just felt like maybe he'd lost every other. I mean, we played 200 and some shows a year. It's your life, and so they took off. But for the most part, it was them. Recently, then we brought in two other high school buddies of mine that I played in bands with all my life, were Bart Harrison and Mike Bailey. Obviously, we have a keyboard player, Rob, who's been there from the beginning too.
Okay.
Rob's still here with me, but keyboard players go unnoticed. We know how that goes. So then we got Mike, and Mike's an incredible drummer, and Bart is one of my best friends. But Bart's daughter, and Bart's a lifer. Bart would be here today, but his daughter came down with diabetes and a few other things, and the right thing to do was to go home, and and at that point I kind of got tired of bringing in my friends and
your buddies, yeah.
Not tired of it, but it was getting to the point where I think that everyone back home was starting to wait for
call me
who's going to be next, and so I've known Eric Brittenham for as long as I've known Bret. He's an incredible bass player. He's really good, but I don't know that everyone realizes he's great, because I knew how good he was until he got in the band, and he comes from that era, from the 70s, not the 80s. He comes from that era where real bass playing happened. Even Gene Simmons, make fun of him as much.
Oh, he's great. He's a great
70s.
bass player.
Those walking bass lines and all that stuff.
Groove, yeah.
And the Zeppelin stuff and all that stuff, and the Aerosmith stuff, and that's where Eric comes from. And so he's just this amazing bass player with these amazing vocal abilities, and he's a team player. And the band is solid, probably the best it's ever been. And it's a family. The Bret Michaels band's a family. Every member of the band that's ever been in it still welcome in the band. If they show up, they get up and play with us. It's a couple times Mike hasn't been able to make it. Chuck has filled in. It's family. It's not there's not one of us that doesn't keep in touch. I still talk to Steve sometimes, and So yeah. But that's it. Bret doesn't like it not to be family. And that goes back to the point I was making earlier about when he hired just kind of guys that didn't know each other to play in that band, and it didn't gel. So when he hired my band to be his band, and it was more of a Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, or the Silver Bullet Band, or Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. In Bret's mind, and it's very true, we were a functioning band that he could just come in and sing in and out of. He didn't have to keep putting it together. He didn't have to worry about his stuff. It was very much like that, and it works like that because Bret has a lot more important things on his plate than to come rehearse on Skinny Bop again with somebody.
But going back to Eric, I definitely notice an uptick in the vocals, and my old original band did a show with Cinderella probably back in the early 2000s, and they did like a 4-hour sound check, which is pretty long, but half of the sound check was the four of those guys just sitting there on the stage just singing, and the vocals, I had never heard 4-part harmonies like that for a rock band before. It was crazy. It was good.
Eric's consistent and persistent. He will get it right, and I mean, in the last version of the band with Bart sings like an angel. He has that kind of voice like Robert Mason from Warrant has, and can hit those notes that no one can dream of hitting. And that was great too. Eric has a thicker, rounder thing like I do and Bret does, so it becomes a much fuller maybe sounding thing. But vocals are important to Bret. You aren't allowed in this band if you can't sing.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's important to him.
So what? Since Poison's out right now with Def Leppard, what do you go get out to any of the shows in your area? Do you travel out to any of them? You hang around? Or?
It's funny you say that. I made a very important point, and to me was I didn't tell Bret I was coming, and I went and I purchased tickets. And I sat out on the lawn like I was 17 again, and I watched the Poison show as a fan. Obviously I have complete access. I can go and come as I want, but I didn't say a word to him until I was about 10 miles down the road on my way back home, and I texted him a picture and I said, "Great show, made me feel 15 again. You're the best front man in the world." And to me that's important because I wanted him to know I'm still a fan. I love Poison, and on the rare occasion that I get to spend time with those guys, me and Cece talk for hours. We talk for hours, and he's an incredibly intelligent and charming guy with so much to say and so much insight on the world. You know, a lot of me and him as enemies, but he's one of my guitar heroes. He's been a friend. He's done some pretty cool things for me in my life, and the fact that he doesn't go out bashing me that I'm out playing his songs. You know, from time to time I'll get a guy that'll, you know, you guys sound so much better than Poison, and I'll be grateful, thank you, but always remember they wrote those songs.
Right.
So you know.
Yeah, I had a. I was gonna say I had the pleasure of playing a show with when he was doing Samantha 7 back in the day.
Me too.
And he came right over. I was standing on the side waiting for my band to get up and do sound check. He came over and just started chatting and just.
He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He went through hell and back to get to the man he is today, without a doubt. And his son Valen certainly drives him to be the incredible guy he's become.
That seems to be a common theme of a lot of the people I've been talking to is the kids. The kids and I know from checking out your stuff, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I want to switch over to I have a lot of guitar players that listen and watch this stuff.
Sure.
As far as the latest tour that you did with Bret, which I'm assuming when the Poison tour is done, you're going to get right back on the road with him.
We were just in Portland, Maine, and New York City this week. Yeah,
on his off days. His off days.
Yeah. No, I think we play in Iowa next week, and then at the end of June we have a string of dates all across the country, and it goes right back. He doesn't stop.
So what are you using as far as? Let's start with your are you using like processors, or are you actually bringing amps out?
I'm a 5150 guy.
Oh, nice.
Everybody knows my love there for Van Halen.
Right up my alley. Right up my alley.
On tour right now, my main rig is the 5153, the brand new 50 watt head. And then on fly dates, I've been taking the lunchbox version that they're making.
Yep. Is that the 15 water?
Yeah. But I gotta tell you, I don't know what, it sounds better than my main one. That is a killer little amp, and I walk on a plane with it. I can walk into a club or wherever. It's unbelievable.
Now, what about your effects? Are you a big effects guy? You just plug into that thing and.
So I go through phases. Yeah. At the end of the day, I like a big AC/DC rock and roll sound. It's very interesting that Van Halen is my be all end all. My love is Van Halen, followed by Poison, Warrant, and Bon Jovi, and then I Kiss was the first band I ever got into, and I love them.
Me too.
I don't know that as I've gotten older, I don't know that I'm a fan of their sound, their production. I don't know that. They're part of my life, and the songs are great, but and stuff goes. It's that Bon Jovi New Jersey era and the Van Halen. I like the Balance era and
I love the Balance era. That's my favorite tone Eddie's had.
Yeah. I loved OU812 too, but the chorus on the guitar was too much. So my point to that is, as much as I'm a fan of that really polished stuff in the studio, live I'm a raw plug it in guy. Over the course of playing those songs for the last 13 years, every once in a while, just to add it up, I've thrown in a phaser or a delay or something. But I have always been a plug my Les Paul into my amp, get up on stage and go. Too much goes wrong, man. I've been in front of crowds as big as 100,000 people, and all of a sudden some processor goes down and you look like an idiot. It's too scary for me, man. If I can, I use a cable. If the stage, obviously the show's important, and I like to animate it, but isn't too big, I put a cable on too, just like Eddie. Eddie's a cable guy too.
Yeah, he does.
But in the studio, it's completely different. In the studio, I'll experiment with anything and pile it on and put it on, and But live, I just like to go with what's safe. I amp and guitar, man.
That's cool. Yeah, I used to do all the whole giant pedal board thing, but nowadays I do use a processor, but it's just for I really only run delay, reverb most of the time. But I like having that processor because if the amp does go down, I have that as a backup. I can run direct because I run in-ears a lot. So do you guys do in-ears, or do you just let it blow?
So old school, man. So old school.
That's cool.
Yeah, prior to using the 5150 for a couple of years, I actually did use an iPad as my rig.
Yep, I've done that.
Because I am a technology guy. I love the technology, and I'd done a lot of work with Amplitude and was writing articles in Guitar World about how to work Amplitude, and so I was using it live because I didn't want to be a fake. If I'm representing, I was representing, and I still swear by Amplitude in the studio. But one day I was doing a gig with the guys from Trickster, and Steve had that 5150, and you know what it's like when you go from processor and your tone's great, and then one day you just strum a chord on a tube amp again,
and you feel it,
and then you go, oh yeah, I forgot this is what it is, and that's what I did.
Yeah, when I'm doing, depending on the show, but most of the shows that my band's doing nowadays are pretty good size, so I'll run. If you can see that back there.
Yeah.
But I'll run that. So, but there are shows, like I have a show coming up this weekend. I'm just going to use my Helix, Line 6 Helix. I'm going to run direct.
Yeah.
A smaller stage. But all right, so let's shift gears a little bit. I know that we're running coming up on the time here. Now, I wanted to get into when we mentioned kids being important to a lot of the guests I've had on, and I'm positive that it is for you too, because I've read some of your stuff, and I still am. Your book is on my list to get. So I have a list of books that I have to read, and I just have no time. But talk to me about the book that you had put out, quickly, or however long you want to talk about it, and the reason, because it's a good reason, because I saw some interviews.
So the book is called The Moments That Make Us, and I'd gone through a divorce, and I have two children that mean everything to me. And I was faced with, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be part of my children's life with the career that I've chosen? I had been a career musician my whole life, so this wasn't a just give up the gig and go back to work. I don't have any other work.
Right.
It's time. I had no other skills. I know nothing but playing guitar and producing records. So, so with that being said, I panicked. I didn't know how to be a great father. I was really upset that the marriage failed. I didn't believe in a failing marriage. So I started retracing the steps of all the things that happened to me in my childhood, and trying to figure out what had made me me, and what had made me the kind of person that would be able to not succeed in a marriage. And as I started writing it, it was originally called Children Are Resilient, but what about the adults we become? Because I got so tired of hearing everyone go, oh, your kids are going to be fine, your kids are going to be fine. And yeah, kids are fine, but almost every adult I know is broken, man. And it's like, yeah, we become adults and we learn how to handle the, but we're still broken on the inside. We're all faking it on the outside. And so as I started retracing the footsteps and writing down these exact moments in my life that changed me, for instance, one of the opening parts of the book is there's a comedian named Stephen Wright. I'm sure you
Yep.
do you know. Oh, excuse me. Hold on one second.
It's okay.
There's a comedian called Stephen Wright, and when I was very young, he had said, I was watching his special, and he said, sometimes you have to look at life like this, and he turned his head, and as stupid as it was, the point hit me like a ton of bricks. Sometimes look at it from a different angle, right? And whatever his joke was, it wasn't a joke to me. He had changed my life, but it was in a split second that happened in my life. And so I wrote this collection of 12 different moments in my life that define the positive things in the man that I had become. And I kind of wrote it as an inspiration, but it also, every story ties into how I have of me to influence and raise children and give me the strength to be a single father raising those two boys. A whole lot of it is about how to treat women and make sure their marriages don't fail and stuff like that. So yeah, the book's called The Moments That Make Us, and it started out with just a set of notes with me dealing with my failures in life, and as I let a few people read it, it became inspirational to those, and one of the people that read it was a book publisher, and she thought that it was important enough to put out, and there it is.
Nice. I told you it's on my list. I urge everybody to at least take a look at it that's listening to the podcast. So now you're a musician, you're an author. you're pretty much an entrepreneur because you have you can see behind you, for the people that are listening to the podcast, this will be on video. You're in a candle shop, so you are a candle maker, and it's actually a very cool concept with, I was on your website the other day and checking out, are you a Yankee fan?
Like a sports fan?
Well, yeah, a New York Yankee fan.
So I have to be completely honest with you. I am not a sports guy at all.
Okay.
You know, I appreciate it, and I've met several athletes over the years. That Brett's
Brett's a huge sports fan.
Most people are. So I don't. If you're talking about the baseball candles, they're really cool, and I get it, but I'm not a fan enough to discuss with you what.
No, I wasn't gonna discuss like the Yankees. I just noticed that for sports candles you had Yankee players, and there were no other.
Yeah. Well, so
yeah.
My the agent that helped me promote my book knows these guys, knows Tommy John and Roger Clemens, and it was actually his brainchild to do this. We do the music candles.
I was gonna get to that.
We do all of that, and so this was an extension of that. And I get it. I mean, baseball is a great American sport. It's the big thing. So he came up with the idea, and we ran with it.
So for the music fans out there, you have a line fully licensed. I noticed you had Def Leppard Pour Some Sugar on Me, which is like a pink sugar scent.
Yeah.
It's a really cool concept. And you had Warren obviously with cherry pie, so it smells like a cherry pie. You have Kiss. Kiss was. I noticed you had Kiss. Was it Def Leppard, and there was one other band. They're all part of the same deal, right? Aerosmith. There you go.
Yeah.
So
how could you get Aerosmith from up there?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Shining Soul is the name of the company, and ShiningsoulSOL.com is the website for people to go check it out. And I'll put all the links with the podcast and with the video and all that. So. It's a very cool concept, and you don't just have bands and sports candles. You have all sorts of candles.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I had read that the reason that you started this was because you were somewhere and you had lit a candle. You wanted to relax, and it said it had a certain smell to it, and you smelled it, and it smelled nothing like what it was supposed to smell like. So that was your idea.
Yeah. So we had like I said, we toured nonstop with Bret, and this was about 5 years ago when he went and did the short stint opening up for Motley Crue, and I had come home, and again I was now recently divorced. The house was a lot different than it used to be, and what I describe most is that my life has been loud. From 5 years old, my life has been extremely loud, and I was finally at the point where I wanted something quiet. Never had a hobby in my life, never had anything in my life. It has been guitar in my hand every single day since day 5, since I was 5 years old. And so I had this fireplace built in my house but it was a fake fireplace. It was made to look like an entertainment. It's made to look like a fireplace, but it's an entertainment center. And I wanted to burn candles inside of it. And I went to Yankee Candle, and I got what was supposed to smell like a fireplace. And it did, but it wasn't amazing. And so then I started thinking to myself, I've never done anything in my life. Let me run down to the hobby store and see if I can make a candle. I've never done anything in my life, and that's quiet. I don't have to hear a sound. It's just going to be quiet, me in my house, and I'll do this. And I got obsessed. Just like you're a guitar player. Yeah. It's in our blood. If you're going to do something, you have to do it to the extreme. It's what makes us. So over the course of several months, man, I just became obsessed with making that one candle smell the way I wanted it to. And by the time I'd figured it out, I'd learned so much about the candle industry that I thought to myself, let me just start a little online candle business and teach my kids entrepreneurism. Right. Because my kids are showing the signs like me that they may not grow up and be a doctor or a lawyer, Yeah. So I said, let me just teach them some skills. And plus, to be honest with you, one of the biggest things that I say this a lot to people, I imagine you're probably about my age.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
40s.
44.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably know this too. Everybody that I went to school with, every job that they thought they were going to have, the world changed on us.
Mm-hmm.
Those jobs, the jobs most of my friends planned for, the IT world blew up and the world changed. And I'm afraid that might happen again. We can't predict that. So so I believe the biggest skill any of us can teach any of our children is a little bit of entrepreneurism. So I started the business, and then as I started the business, I started realizing that even the greatest, the biggest candle company in the world, Yankee Candle, they don't have any marketing. It's a word of mouth business, man. Mm-hmm. That guy Michael Kettridge, who is a failed rock star, I don't know if you know the guy who started Yankee Candle started because he was in college trying to make it as a rock band, had no money, came home for the holidays, and he crayons down to make his mom a candle for Christmas. That's how Yankee Candle started. That's cool. Anyway, I just realized there's no marketing in them in the candle world, and I thought, God, all the things I've learned from Bret and Gene Simmons are the two in the world. And I thought, in the candle industry, there's no definable logo like the Nike logo or the Kiss logo or the Chevy logo. There's nothing that, whether you have that candle or not, you might have a shirt that has that logo on it, And I thought, let me try my Gene Simmons and see if I can brand a candle company in different ways. So we came up with the sun that, it's right there.
Yep, I got it up on my screen here too.
Yeah, and it's working. I have several people that have tattooed it on their body. We sell merchandise, shirts and hats and different things with it. It's become recognizable. So I just took the rock and roll market, because if you can succeed in rock and roll, apply it to any other business and you're going to succeed. And so that's what we did. And before I knew it, we're happening.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very cool concept, and you have so many candles on your website. It's great. It's shiningsoul.com. Soul is SOL.com for the people that want to check it out there. I've taken up, actually, we've gone over the time that we had allotted, so it's been fun. It's great. I learned a lot.
Talk, man.
It's I definitely have you on again if you want to come on. You got anything you want to get, anything you want to put out there to promote coming up, whether it's shows or just let people know.
Come see the solo band and buy some candles.
Yeah, I'm gonna get all those links up for you. I'll put a note with your book too. They can. I'm assuming it's on Amazon.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so I'll get all that stuff out for you, and.
I will say the book's incredibly important to me. So I try not to be too sleazy of a salesman with all my stuff.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
But the book does have over 200 5-star reviews on Amazon,
Wow.
which is pretty cool. It touched a lot of people's lives. If there's one thing I can say that I truly did right, I think was the book. And so if any of your listeners are looking for some kind of inspiration, give it a shot. It seems to have touched a lot of people. So
well, it's definitely an important message, and this is the Rocker Dad podcast, so
right.
It fits right in with that. My kids are my number one, so it's good to see you doing that too. But thanks for your time, and we'll keep in touch. Definitely keep in touch.
You got it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.